Yeah, I would keep it. I would keep it. Oh, you want to short some Blink? Yeah, Blink's a turd. It's a rollover pattern too. Buy it at 20. Nah. Yeah, these are all rollover patterns. See, there's no level of support here. There is a bounce spot, so it's a little bit more tricky. Morning, everybody. Hey, Jay Joshi, Pola's probably too thin. The other ones will work. FLGT too thin too. But it is bouncy. Morning, peoples. Let's go. Hey, gap down in the market. Nasty market the last few days. You know, I didn't really see any news in the market that was like, oh shit, like, things have changed. But essentially, I mean, the only thing I've seen is like there's rising interest rates, which is, I don't think that really should, I mean, the interest rates rose like 10 basis points. So it's like you're going from like 0.5% to 0.6%. Not sure why that would put some sell pressure in the market. Doesn't really matter. We were due for a pullback to the 50 SMA anyways. You know, you can see here, this is the first time we're testing this 50 SMA since November. So basically around election day. It has been, we have broke under it a few times. But in general, you know, it's been the guard dog since the coronavirus lows, which were, you know, in late March. And you can see, like, we've doubled in the last, 8 months. Not to mention, like, it's not that the market's doubled. I mean, most stocks that we trade or have traded are up 1,000%, 500%, 1,000%, some of them. So, these are just the nature of the beast. I do think there's a couple things that we've got stimulus package coming out tomorrow. So that should be, that could provide possibly some type of catalyst. It may not be, but historically we've gotten some type of catalyst from that type of stuff, and we're just at a sweet spot here. We're at 11 stochastics. We're at the lower Bollinger Band. We may have one more flush here at the open, but I think the reward is on trying to long this gap, because we're down about 1.5%. There's a whole shitload of stocks that are on support. This is a day trading environment only at the moment, but there are a lot of stocks that are sitting on support. There are a lot of good stocks that actually have some earnings out, and of late too, that we can play. So let's take a look at just kind of the watch list, and then let's shred. All right, let's shred. Good. All right. So let's take a look at the general watch list. I want to start off. And I want to be looking for, so like anytime the market starts to get like this, I want to look for stocks that are liquid, that have the ability to give me range, and I need to have some big level of support underneath. This is not a good market for small caps. Like if the market's tanking, the last thing you want to do is be in some big turdy stock that's pumped by some asshole in a Discord room. Like that's the worst place you want to be. That's worse than the backseat of your buddy's Volkswagen, that's for sure. So let's take a look and see like what are some stocks that are at bounce spots. This PDD, it's nothing sexy, but it gives us good range. It's got an ATR of $11. You're at 213, pulled right in. So I would put an alert right at this 50 SMA, about 172. We may get a bounce off that spot. I think that's going to be probably, top of the list. Billy's another one. This is the Chinese video company. It's had an incredible run, but usually the first test of the 50 will hold. We're almost there. It needs maybe one more flush down, and I think we're going to be good to go on that one. It's got a good location. Labu, this is the biotech, 3X biotech ETF. This actually I'd probably look at maybe even for a little bit of a swing trade if I get a confirmation that it holds. This thing was at 185. You're down to about 120. If you look at the IBB, which is like the general biotech index, You're at 174. You've come down a decent amount, about 10-15%. I'll pull back the 3x ETFs, just move a lot more than that. You're right at a sweet spot on that. You're right at a sweet spot on that. So, like, if that holds, you're good to go. Ryan, if you wanted a Twilio for a 5-year hold, you probably should have added it like 3 years ago, right? Like, it's at $500. That's, maybe a 5-day hold. But, like, it's hard to say. There's impossible to know what's going to go up for 5 years unless, that's just way beyond my pay grade. Yeah, they always talk about financial transaction talk. I don't think it really means anything. We'll just move to Marco's country. So this Labu's in a bounce spot. I do have Twilio on my list for bounce spot off the 50 SMA, maybe for a few days. We might be able to get this thing, but this is not a priority because it's got a little bit more room to go. I think one that we can shred down that's a little bit more rangy. What do you think of this bad boy? 48, coming down to 28. I mean, you've got enough support down here. I think that this one is, this one's got a nice oversold look to it. We got ourselves a huge location. So this gap over here happened when they had some news out that they had a deal with the NFL. So you can see here about 19 days ago, Skills NFL Inc. multi-year esports deal. That was what caused this gap. That gap is filled back down here. So now you've filled that gap and you're back down into really this big support zone right before the news. Now, it's not been a good market for, SPACs, or this is not even considered a SPAC anymore because it's come out of that. But in general, it's not been a good market for these type of names. But that's usually when they start to rip back, right? When they look so nasty, they come back to support. That's when they start to rip back. This was up 400, 500% too. So it's natural to come back, 50, 60%. This has got a good location to it. I think that's going to be a sweet spot for us. This one's for Blizzy. JMIA, this could be another one. This was at $70. It's pulled back to 45. So not an epic pullback, but a multi levels of support. So the big thing is when you're running your scans on TC2000, you want to, when the market's pulling back, there's two types of scans you want to run. Number one, you want to run an oversold scan. And then the second part is you want to do a flex scan. Does anybody know what flex scan is? So flex scan is okay, you're going to add multiple conditions and combine them into two different scans into one. So you want to run an oversold scan. And then the second part is you want to run a scan for stocks that are sitting on support, usually something that will mimic the market or coming close to the market. So the market's pulled back to the 50. We trade a lot of tech stocks. Look for tech stocks that are coming back down into the 52. So you got JMIA here. You got a nice location on this one. Broke it through the lower Bollinger Band. Broke it through the lower Bollinger Band. You get a 10 stochastics. It's got a $5 ATR, average true range the last 14 days, $5. So that's pretty good, right? You rip 1,000 shares, it moves around $5 back and forth. You can have yourself a little pizza party. So it's got a good spot to it. This one's also got decent enough volume. It does trade a little bit spready at the open. What I mean by spready is the difference between where the bid and ask is. For example, if you're in the chat room, you never want to blindly follow me on any type of trade, but especially on trades like JMIA, you've got to kind of anticipate it on your own. And what I mean by that is that if it starts to move, I'm in, but the spread is 50, 60 cents, then you have to chase that, but I'll have 2,000 shares. So right off the bat, you have to be able to level in when the setups come in. That's why it's very important. You guys spend a lot of time studying. You never want to blindly follow anybody, no matter how good they are. A chat room is great for using it as like a human scanner, but it's no good for just following people because when one person's coming in hot, the other one is coming in cold. I love the location on this. I think we'll be good to go on it. It's a good one. TDOC, I actually think TDOC is going to be one of the hot stocks of this year. This is a Teladoc, Telechart, a medicine company. This thing got the 310. It's pulling back to multiple levels of support. This is actually one I've been eyeballing for more of a swing trade for quite some time. I had an original huge batch of it, and then I pikered the sell. Shocker, right? I pikered the sell, and now it's coming back into the original spot where I bought it. Man, that one's going to be good. Once again, you don't want to blindly buy anything in this market. Let the confirmation start to hold. You want to really let this thing, right, come in, test, hold. You need a reversal candle. If you get that, then you're going to be in a nice spot. SQ, also breakout pullback. This is only retraced about 10%. I'd like one more day of flush. Guys, when you think of pullbacks, you want minimum 3 days of pullbacks when you do pullback trade. If you do a 1 day pullback, 2 day pullback, that's not a pullback. You need multiple days pulling back, grinding out those buyers, making them feel the pain, and then that's when you get the bounce. So this one's going to need one more day, but I think you're going to be in a good spot. Crowd. Cybersecurity is going to be, a big theme for the next couple years. Crowd is at a nice location. Also, you're right at the 50 SMA. This one's got a good bounce spot in it too. I think cybersecurity is always going to be a theme for the next couple years, but that's going to be a good one. For those of you guys that like a little bit of a cheaper name, DM, this is Desktop Metal. This runs with DDD. This is a 3D printing company. 3D printing will also be a theme over the next 1 to 2 years. This is the first time it's had a steep pullback since it started its run, and it went from SPAC to stock essentially. This is the first steeper pullback on it. It's got a good location on it too. Once again, this is going to need a little bit of, it's going to need just a little bit of love before it gets going. We're going to need a hot intraday setup. You know what? Etsy's got its earnings out in a couple days. Leave that one alone. TTD, a couple people asked me about this. It's a good location. I don't know what it is, but I just can't stomach buying this thing up here at $1,000. I used to trade this thing was like $50-$60. So for some reason, it just ruins my boner to just even think about playing this thing at $1,000. I don't know why that is. It just is. That's life. Workhorse now is at a sweet spot mode. You could play that, but let me just regurgitate so that we're not confused about where we're going today. All right, we're not confused about where we're going and what we're trying to do. We've got skills. All right, we got skills. We got PDD. All right, we've got Labu. All right. I saw somebody ask about that. We got DM. We got Billy. And we got JMIA the GOAT. These are the top. All right? These are the top. Because they give us the mix of liquidity, range, and heartburn that we need. You need a little bit of heartburn when you're trading. Otherwise, you're not going to feel alive. Right? It's not a risk unless you feel a little bit of juice. So those are totally fine. Now, we got a little bit of a deeper list. More speculative names. Yalla. This is like the Arabian Facebook. This is, every time I hear that, it makes me smile. Arabian Facebook. $42 down to 23. No, that's a heater. This is, to me, is an IRA type of play. You've got a nice location on it. If I get a reversal candle on this bad boy, I'm coming in hot on it. It's gapping down 7%, so it's going to give us some room to go. So those are like a little bit more speculative. Workhorse is also something that's a little bit more speculative. You got yourself a nice location on this one also, down 9%. Now look, these EV companies were getting torn apart yesterday due to, Tesla's had a decent size rollover. You can already see this thing's pulling back. Man, it's 2020 run was obviously the run of runs for a large cap name. It's bouncy, but it's not in a good location. I think AI is very similar, VJ. Like, it's bouncy. It's just more a matter of, like, is this easy? And what I mean by is this easy is there's going to be a spread on this bad boy. There's going to be a spread on this. So do you want to, like, there's going to be you have a market that's coming crashing down. You got a lack of liquidity. And then there's going to be a $2 spread on this. So it becomes a little bit tricky. And your other idea was actually really good. I got that on my list. But this one's also going to have a monster cock spread. All right, so like this thing, $190, you're at the 50 SMA. I mean, that's... Woo! I mean, this is a monster bounce spot. I mean, you're coming in a full... I mean, first of all, this is a multi-billion-dollar company. You're coming in a full 50% retracement on the hottest sector that's been around. Like, I know everybody's like, EV battery, think about it, but really it's been diagnostics. That was the number one sector, at least according to TC 2000, of the last, 90 days. This is at a very, very nice sweet spot. But the big, hairy Indian butt of this is that it has a huge lack of liquidity. And when the market is pulling back, can we risk that? So, this is something I'm also looking at as more of an IRA play. If it starts to test there and hold, and I get some confirmation, throw in, 200, 300 shares into your IRA, first target back up to here, and I think you'll be good to go. That's it. Man, that's a nice bounce spot too. That and Labu, they're both thin, but they're both at nice bounce spots. We just got to be a little bit mindful. This market, you got to protect risk, protect risk, protect risk, protect risk. This Palantir chart is just dick, though. That's the problem with it. It's like, I want to buy Palantir. I want to believe in Palantir. I want to shred Palantir. But Palantir doesn't want to shred. It looks disgusting, and it always has. The only reason we always think about Palantir so much is that Brad Young, one of my friends, who's in the chat room, is obsessed with it. He makes out with it. He makes love to it. He beats off to it. It's all he thinks about all day, every day. And so then, we think about it. On the other side of things, Bitcoin has come crashing down along with the market. We are at a nice sweet spot where I don't think Bitcoin's a bounce spot because it's got way more room to pull back here. You can see it usually when it pulls, it takes about a month to kind of grind out the sellers if we're looking at just kind of how the sellers have come in the last... See, this usually takes like a month or two to grind out all the sellers. So you've had a nice pullback. I anticipate that, we'll get a kind of a little bit of a dead cat bounce, and then maybe we'll pull back for a little bit. We added some in the chat room, in the crypto chat room in the morning, the 1400s. I'm up about 100 points on it. It looks all right. I might sell it, just take a profit. This LTC's was at 240, came down to 160, so you got a nice retracement here, testing the 50 SMA. If you actually look at it, it looks no different than the stocks, right? They're all just sitting at the 50 SMA. Every stock, every coin, your life, your debts, your income, everything's at the 50 SMA, ready to bounce. That's just what's happening. That's what we got to roll with. You got the link over here, 36 bucks. Pull back to the 50 SMA 2. You can see this thing's already starting to grind. I keep an eye on some of these coins. Always stick with the bigger ones when the market pulls back. Stick with the bigger ones. They'll be more liquid, and they'll give you just as much range. And then once the market starts to shred, that's when you really go in with the more speculative, kind of like, shittier ones. So that's the list, guys. I'm sticking to it. We know what we got to do. Let's go do it. We've earned the right to shred today. JMIA, top of the list. We know this, all right? Let's go back through. JMIA, PDD, Billy, top of the list. Skills. Those are the 4 faves, all right? Keep a chart up of all of them. Skills, bills to make skills, or is it skills to make bills? Who knows? JMI the GOAT. Man, down 9%. Gap fills, guys, are the trickiest setups to do. It's a counter trend trade, but first of all, you can't short these stocks into the hole. Once the gap fills, we may have to flip back short. We don't necessarily know. This is the trickiest setup. When the market is flying, trading is easy. Stock goes up a little bit, it pulls back, you buy it. There is nothing to do. This requires more skill. Frankly, if you're just new, don't know what the fuck you're doing, can't take the losses, whatever, sit it out. When the market starts trading again, you get a lot nicer locations on stuff, a lot nicer stuff. You don't have to trade every single market, right? You don't have to trade every single market. Frankly, if you just concentrate even on the 3-4 months when the market is like red hot, you would probably make more money than sitting there trading like every day, all day, unless you're just really good. If you're really good, you make money every day, all day. You know, that's because you're good, but that's not where everybody's going to be. You don't have to trade every single market, or trade smaller. Trade smaller. What happens when the volatility increases, sometimes we think we're going to make more money, but all that happens is just exacerbates, I can't even say that damn word, our losses, and then we get in a trading funk. Pullback trading is very tough. So trade half size, let the ranges play out. You know, there's like a lot of times people think they're going to get rich or make their most money when the market is volatile. And that's actually not true. You make the most money when the market is like just easy and grinding up. That's just a fact because everything works. That's the list. I'm sticking to it.